Jabu Jabu's belly is definitely one of the most loved dungeons in the entire game by many. Well, except that it's not. However, the entire dungeon plays out a little different with the way speedrunners approach it. While this dungeon is skipped in most categories, it is still included in quite a few. So this time we're comparing the normal way to beat them with the way speedrunners beat them, including all Skulltulas since they're on the way anyways. Without further ado, let's hop right into it.
First of all, we need to enter the dungeon. Unlike pretty much every other dungeon, this one has a special entry condition. We need to get Ruto's letter in Lake Hylia and show it to King Zora, who will then very slowly open up the way to Zora's fountain. Here we need to feed Jabu a fish in order for him to consume Link to even enter the dungeon itself. From here on, we use the slingshot to trigger the switch on the ceiling in order to open the first door. After this, we head to the other side, where Ruto awaits us. But as she doesn't accept any help, she tries to walk away and drops into a hole. We go after her and convince her to let us help her, where she then lets us carry her around, with her doing basically nothing at all. After picking her up, we move through the first door and continue walking up until we find some water with stingers, a switch, and our first Skulltula. We throw her up, kill the Skulltula with our slingshot, trigger the switch to raise the water, and climb the vines to get it. From here we go to Ruto, trigger the switch on the ceiling to open a door, get up with the elevator and head to the right, which is the room we just came from. After getting here, we go to the other side of the room, enter the door, and head to the right to trigger a switch, which we are only heavy enough for if we carry Ruto. We enter the room, kill the 4 stingers, and get the boomerang as our reward. From here we go back into the previous room and leave the hallway into the room with the holes in the ground, where we pick the first one in front of us and fall through it with Ruto on our head. Down here we kill 2 extra Skulltulas and pick them up with the boomerang. After this is done, we pick up Ruto and head through the door next to us, where Ruto finds the Zora Sapphire, which is followed by her disappearing and a big Octo approaching us. We kill him by hitting his back a couple of times, or a single time with a Deku stick. Use the elevator to get up, stun the 2 red jellies, and jump over them to reach the next room. Here we basically just need to jump onto the platform, pick up a box as we can't use Ruto anymore, and head into the last room of the dungeon. In here we climb up the vines, use the boomerang to trigger the switch, grab the last Skulltula once we're down again, and head to the boss. This one is a rather complex fight compared to a lot of the bosses in Ocarina of Time. First we need to sever its connection with the ceiling of the room, where it then unleashes its first set of Beerus. The easiest way is to wait for them to stop spinning, which then allows us to hit the boss with the boomerang. We need to stun it and then get rid of the Beerus in order for the second set of Beerus to start circling, to which we do the exact same. After this, the boss will rise and start roaming around the room, where we once again need to stun it and then deal damage to it. We deal several blows to the monster and kill it, and finally find Ruto along with a heart container and the Zora Sapphire.
This speedrun approaches things a little different. In most of the runs, which include beating Jabu Jabu, the dungeon is done as Adult Link. We go to Zora's domain and get into the corner next to the pillar, where we use a jump slash to clip out of bounds and bypass King Zora. Once in Zora's fountain, we need to get into Jabu Jabu's belly as Adult, which seems odd at first as Jabu himself isn't even there anymore. However, his loading trigger is still there. It's just hidden in the ice at the end of the platform where Jabu usually is. Nintendo shrank the loading zone down to a single pixel so the player can't reach it anymore by accident, but there is still a way to get there. We get into a specific position and place a bomb. Shortly before it explodes, we roll into it and equip hover boots at a certain frame. As we reach that frame, we sight up right, unequip hover boots for 1 frame and re-equip them again, which is then followed by a jump slash. This leads to us doing a mega sight up with a certain height and speed, which clips us into the ice and we hit the loading zone for Lord Jabu Jabu. In here, we use the hookshot for the first switch and then place Furor's Wind to get back to the second room faster. We encounter Ruto and let her drop down the hole, which we disregard for now. Instead, we go to the hole next to the other side of the room and drop down to grab the Skulltulas with a hookshot first. As we are Adult Link, it's not a big deal for us to climb the platform onto which Ruto fell, which means we don't have to go all the way back up. We talk to Ruto, pick her up, and go to the room with the water, where we kill the next Skulltula with a hookshot. After climbing up the platform, we pick up Ruto again and throw her at the ceiling switch, which triggers it. I guess she's useful for something after all. Once again we pick her up, use the elevator and head to the room with the holes in the ground. We go through the door on the other side, then to the right and hop onto the Switch with Ruto. Even though we're Adult Link, the game will tell us that we're too light for the Switch without Ruto for obvious reasons. We get into the room, stun the stingers with 2 Deku Nuts, get rid of them and grab the boomerang. Now we can just warp back to the second room with Farore's Wind, as we don't need Ruto anymore. We equip hover boots and use them to skip the platform in order to get to the Switch which we originally need the box for. Here we hop onto it and roll towards the door, where we then have 1 frame to open it before it closes again, as the Switch isn't held down by anything. After we enter the room, we sight up a couple of times and drop a bomb chew, which will happily run along the wall and trigger the ceiling switch for us. The only thing left to do is to now grab the last Skulltula and defeat Baronade. In order to defeat Baronade, we need to have the boomerang equipped. This can be done by performing a trick called Equip Swap. We put the cursor on the boomerang, switch to the map screen, and then back. If we now hit up left and a C button in the right frame, the game will equip the boomerang and treat it like it was Farore's Wind in the inventory, allowing us to use it inside dungeons. We enter the room and start the usual way, where we tear Baronade's connection with the room's ceiling. After this is done, a well-timed boomerang throw stuns Baronade and the Beeries before they start spinning, and we can kill all of them by simply throwing a Deku Nut. Now we just repeat this to defeat the second wave, which is then followed by the last form. Baronade rises. We once again use the boomerang to stun it, jump slash it with a Master Sword, and then roll into it. We do this as Baronade has 2 conditions on when to rise after getting damage. Either we wait long enough for it to start rising, or we get damage. However, if we roll into it, we can use our invincibility frames to not get damage, but still force Baronade to be vulnerable once again. We repeat this procedure 3 times, after which Baronade is defeated, and we can grab the heart container plus the Zora's Sapphire. At this point, we could add things such as ways to skip the cutscene, and wrong warping to either the Fire Temple or the Dongo's Cavern, but this has to do for today. Thank you for watching our return of Casual vs Speedrun. If you liked it, we have plenty more of those videos, so why don't you check them out? And while you're at it, you could subscribe to not miss out on any of our videos.